The book of Joshua, session number 46. Joshua chapter 14. And I'm not reading the whole chapter. I'm going to highlight for you verse 4. For the children of Joseph were two tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. Therefore they gave no part unto the Levites in the land. Because remember the Levites, God said, I am the inheritance of the Levites. Many people will look at the genealogy of the 12 sons of Israel, of Jacob, throughout scriptures, throughout the Old Testament, and then especially comparing the names of the tribes in the New Testament. And then people will find stuff that doesn't agree. In the one genealogy, they will find the names of Ephraim and Manasseh, together with the 10 other tribes, and then the Levites are not there. Then in another genealogy, you'll find the name of Joseph and Levi, and then Ephraim and Manasseh is not there. In another genealogy, you'll find Manasseh and then Joseph, but Ephraim and Levi is not there. So, when people try to find fault with the Bible and they give you proof that the Bible is not consistent, and they show you, for instance, the genealogy in 5 or 6 different places in the Bible are all different, then please will you laugh in their faces and tell them to start understanding their scriptures. Because whether you say Joseph or you say Ephraim and Manasseh, you are representing the tribe of Joseph through any one of those 3 names. Many times the house of Israel is called the house of Joseph, is called the house of Ephraim, is called the house of the lost sheep. The tribe of Levi is sometimes mentioned in the tribes when they inherit land, or when it's talked about how they go into battle, or all these kind of things. And sometimes they are not mentioned, because the Levites never inherited any physical land. They are the priests and the servants and the holy ones that was serving God and representing God's people. And God himself is their inheritance. They were never mentioned when it came to physical inheritance. What an absolute amazing thing it must have been to be from the tribe of Levi and be able to get so close in the tabernacle and in the temple to Yahuwah. Get to the point where earthly possessions didn't matter to them. And when they got to that point, when serving God as a priest gets to the point where earthly possessions doesn't even bother you. You are so occupied with the presence of God every time you come and you sweep the floor, or you put up the tent, or you light up the menorah, or you clean the altar, or whatever your job was. The presence of God consumed you and filled you, and you were satisfied that God's presence, God's chosen hand over you is your inheritance. Then God himself started looking after them. You know, they didn't have to go out into the fields to work and to harvest like the rest of the tribes. They had to serve God day and night. And God made sure through the tithing system and through the sacrifice system that the Levites were looked after well enough. If only they could not become corrupt, if only the priests could stay loyal. Just a quick note to help you answer all those people that always try to find fault with the consistency of scripture. Now the rest of chapter 14 is all about Caleb, and you have to love Caleb. You had to fall in love and have respect for this man. 40 years ago, when Joshua and Caleb were standing for God alone in the whole tribes, in the whole camp, in all 3 million people, when the 10 spies made the rest of the camp so fearful to enter into the promised land, finally they received the fulfillment of the covenant of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob so many years before. Finally, after years and years of slavery and going through the wilderness and testing and being tested for your endurance and your faith, Finally, they can enter into the promised land, and it just wasn't good enough. They didn't trust God enough to allow him to take them into the promised land and give them the big cities and all the Canaanites that were big like giants against them that were small like grasshoppers. The rest of Israel didn't love and trust and serve God with all their heart. They feared him, but not enough to trust him like a child and love him like a wife, like a bride, like the husband he promised himself to be at Mount Sinai. And they rejected his gift. They rejected the home that God wanted to give them. But these two men, even though the rest of the camp wanted to stone them and kill them and then return back to Egypt, these two men chose God and chose to believe. These two men chose God and chose to believe God's covenant above all their own fears and above the fear of the masses and above the lies of, the 10 spies. It wasn't really lies. The lies were, although we see the giants and although God said we will overcome them, we are just grasshoppers in their sight and we will just not make it. Those were the lies. It's true that they are big. It's true that Jericho's walls are high. It's true that Canaan is massive and the kings of Canaan and Babylon is in charge of all the world and they are very strong. But it's a lie that we cannot overcome them when God himself said he will give them in our hands. So verse 6, Then the children of Judah came unto Joshua in Gilgal, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite said unto him, Man of God, concerning me and you in Kadesh Barnea. So first of all, I want to say that we have to praise Abba, who piece by piece take back the land that he has promised. Take back the land that the enemy has occupied. And slowly by slowly, he's giving it out. He's dividing the inheritance to all the tribes. And here comes, like you know by now, the leader of Judah, the royal tribe of the Messiah himself, the lawgiver who has the scepter that will never depart from the feet of Judah. And the leader of this tribe is indeed a mixed breed, ex-pagan stranger that isn't from the loins of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But he represents all those that are, as Paul says in the New Testament, you're not a Jew. Paul says in the New Testament, you're not a Jew if you're from the tribe of Judah or if you're circumcised. You're a Jew when you're a Jew on the inside. Because Yahudah means to praise Yahuwah. And you're circumcised when your heart is cut by the word of God and you follow him like Caleb, who wasn't even a Jew, but became the leader of the tribe of the Jews. And listen to this man, listen who he became through the 40 years and then the challenge and the testing at the edge of the wilderness, and then another 40 years. Listen to who this man became in his journey with Yahuwah. So Caleb said unto Joshua, 40 years old was I when Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and brought him word again, as it was in my heart. So here we can remember Numbers 14, verse 24. Joshua is taking us a little bit through history and taking us on a memory journey. And Caleb came back and said what was in his heart. What was in his heart? Yes, the land is big. Yes, the giants are scary. Yes, the walls are high. But the fruit of the land is amazing. It is a land that flows with milk and honey. God has given us this land. Let us go and take it. And God said about his servant Caleb in Numbers 14 verse 24, but fully, him I will bring into the land. Him and his seed shall possess this land. And that is the spirit that we should have in our hearts in these end days as well. I'll continue with Joshua 14 verse 8. Nevertheless, my brethren went up with me. They made the heart of the people melt. But I wholly followed Yahuwah, my Elohim. And Moses swore on that day, and he said, surely the land whereon your feet have trodden shall be your inheritance, and your children's inheritance forever, because you have followed wholly Yahuwah, your Elohim. And now behold, Yahuwah has kept me alive, as he said, these 45 years, even since Yahuwah spoke this word unto Moses, while the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness to Moses. While the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness, and behold, I am today 85 years old. So basically, he was 40 years old when the first coming to the border of Canaan happened, and this is now 45 years later. He is now 80. That is, a score is 20. He's 4 times 20. He's 80. He's now 85 years old. He's 85 years old. And he says, yet I am as strong today as I was in the day that Moses sent me. As my strength was then, even so is my strength now. For war, both to go out and to come in. And those of you that has done the Pesach 2022 studies, the question was the whole time, if running with the footmen has made you wearied and made you tired, how will you contend with the horsemen? Caleb was running with the footmen for 40 years, and he was running for another 45 years, enduring, serving, getting to love God, getting to know him more and more. And after running for 85 years with the footmen, symbolizing all the battles and the challenges and the rebellions and all the things that happened in the camp, and he had to endure all the disobedience of the camp, and while he's getting to love God more, it's like the people are loving God less. He's running and always busy fighting for God. And finally he comes to the edge of the promised land. And now he's going to fight, running with the foot soldiers. He says, now therefore give me this mountain area, whereof Yahuwah spoke in that day, for you heard in that day how the Anakims were there, and how the cities of the Anakim is in the mountains, great cities and fenced cities. But give that to me. Don't think because I'm old, Joshua, and your friend Joshua, that you must give me the easy part of the land that you have already cleansed. No, give me the mountains, Joshua. I want to go and climb out the highest mountains, and I want to go and kill and slay and destroy all the Nephilim, Babylonian giants that's living there up high in the mountains. I am as strong today as I was when God called me first. I am the leader of the tribe of the Messiah himself. Give me the I am the leader of the tribe of the Messiah himself. Give me the mountains. Yes, the foot soldiers have wearied me. Yes, the camp has wearied me. Yes, the wilderness journey has wearied me. But God has protected me. His hand has been with me. My clothes didn't wear out. My shoes didn't break. The sun didn't burn me by day, and the cold didn't kill me by night. God was with me. His rod and his staff has protected me when things were going well, and even in the valley of the shadow of death, when things were going bad. God kept his cloud over me by day and his fire warming me by night. I came up to the tabernacle of God every Pesach and Shavuot and Sukkot, and I've learned to get to love and trust my God above all. And now my God has strengthened me. As I grow older, my strength in God has become more. As we approach the end days, our strength becomes more, not less. Give us the mountains, Joshua. We are maybe 85 years old because of the journey we have walked this far and everything we have gone through this far. But this is only the birth pangs of the beginning of the end. We are not even close to overthrowing the high city walls of the Babylonian, Anakim, and Nimrod, Tower of Babel cities. We are only fighting from inside the corruption and the deception. We have only up to now, from Genesis to Joshua, really learned about the deception that comes from the inside. We are now on our way to fight the deception from the outside. Give us the mountains. We are as strong now as we were then. We are not scared. I'm able to drive them out, as Yahuwah have said I am. And Joshua blessed him and gave unto Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he gave unto him Hebron. He gave unto Caleb Hebron. For an inheritance. Therefore Hebron became the inheritance of Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite unto this day, because that he wholly followed Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel. And the name of Hebron before was Kirjath Arba. Kirjath Arba, which Arba was a great man among the Anakim. Arba was one of the great leaders and fathers of the giant race. But Caleb said, give me the mountains, give me Kirjath Arba, give me Arba, because my Abba is greater than the greatest kings of the Nephilim race, of the giant race, of the race that rules all of Canaan. My God is bigger. And although I'm 85 years old, do not think for 1 second I'm too old. And although I'm a Kenizzite and I'm not even considered to be a true Hebrew or even a true Jew, give me the best part of the land. Hebron. Hebron, give me Hebron. Hebron became the most important part of the covenant promise of God, of Hamakom, the place, the geographical location of God's kingdom. That's what Hebron has always been. Go back to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. Jacob sent Joseph from Hebron to go and look for his brothers. At the end of the day, Satan and all his puppets that he uses will always try and annexeer, steal God's most important places and covenant terms. So the Anakim, the great Arba from the Anakim race, has taken Hebron. And Caleb said, and this is prophetic, the tribe of Judah will take back Hebron from the tribe of the false Messiah, the false God, Satan, serpent himself. The serpent wanted to rule even in the tree of life. That's why he made his own tree of life. And people today think they're eating from the tree of life, but they're in fact eating from the disguised tree of knowledge of good and evil. Hebron is under the command and the authority and the rulership and the blood sacrifices and the child sacrifices of these Anakim giants who was eating up the land who was sinning against God and humans and animals, and who was worshipping the sun, moon, and stars, and the gods of the fallen angels. And they have stolen Hebron. They have taken Hebron. But it's time to take Hebron back. It's time in the hands of an 85-year-old man that loved God so much. He was willing to get stoned for standing up for God and being in the covenant promises of God and wanting to take God up on his promises. Trusting God so much on his knees, alone in his tent, that when it's time to go into battle, he says, I'm not tired. I've traveled this journey now for such a long time, but I've got the same amount of strength I had as in the beginning. In fact, I've got more. Because now I'm going into the mountains alone. Up to now, for 85 years, I've been fighting together with the rest of Israel. I had the whole camp of Israel, the whole army of all the tribes around me. Now you're sending me, you're giving me and my seed. You're giving us the mountains. And we alone will go up in these mountains. And we will overthrow the Anakim as my up in these mountains. And we will overthrow the Anakim as my God has said we will do. And we will take back Hebron for our God. And all of this is given unto Joshua, not because he became a Jew. Caleb. All of this was given to Caleb because he followed Yahuwah with his whole heart. It is said 3 times in Joshua 14. It is said 3 times in Numbers. Because you followed Yahuwah wholly with all your heart, the land, the promises, the mountains of God's kingdom, where his son will rule and reign, where him himself will rule and reign, is given back in the hands of even him who's not a native, as the leader of the tribe of Judah, but because he followed the heart, with his whole heart he followed Yahuwah. And you'll remember everything we learned about in Joshua 10 and 11 and all the other chapters about the kings of the world and how they've taken over, not only today, the physical promised land. It's currently in the hand of the Jews who call themselves Jews, but they're not. It's currently taken over by the serpent system. It has been ruled by the serpent system since Babylon took it, and then the Medes and the Persians, and then the Greeks, and then the Romans, and then the Ottoman Empire, and the Roman Catholic Crusaders, and then eventually the whole Islam movement, and then the British Empire, and then it went back into the hands of the Jews. And now there's contention between the descendants of the tribe of Judah through Jacob and the tribe of Esau through Ishmael. But this land is the covenant promise that Joshua was willing to take back, because Hebron is prominent in the lives of all the people of God since the beginning, since Genesis right through to Revelation. And Hebron might be in the hands of the enemies. It might be taken over. The kingdom of this world might be in the hand of the serpent now. But the prophecies are in the historical proof that Hebron will be taken back, not only by God himself through his own son from the tribe of Judah, but also through all the strangers and the Enochs and the whores of Babylon and the women of Moab like Ruth, that comes into the tribe of Judah, that comes into the camp of Israel, and that becomes better than sons and daughters, that becomes pillars in the kingdom of God. Hebron in the Hebrew is Strong's H2267. Chever. It means a company and association. Because the company, the Chever, the Hebron of God, is His church. His 12 tribes in a company. His people scattered all over the world, becoming one again with the tribe of Judah, with the house of Judah, becoming a company, becoming a family again. All of the father back into the house when the prodigal son becomes family again with the older brother. And when the lost sheep of the house of Israel is found one by one and brought back on the shoulders of the good shepherd. The root word of Cheber is chabar. Chabar. And chabar means to unite, to join together, to bind together. Because the Hebron of God is His kingdom, the kingdom of David that got divided and scattered and almost destroyed. And the disciples said to Yeshua after his resurrection, is now the time that you will restore his resurrection? Is now the time that you will restore the divided kingdom? That you will Hebron the scattered sheep? That you will join back together the two sticks of Ezekiel 37? That you will gather like the sand of the sea all the seed of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, that is spread as a multitude in the midst of the earth, as Jacob blessed Ephraim. And Yeshua said, it's not time for you to know or to understand. It's not for us to know exactly when this is going to happen. We have to work in the meantime to bring the Chabar, the Hebron, to fruition with the same attitude as Caleb, because of a different spirit that is also inside of us. Not being wary of the foot soldiers, but being ready for the horsemen. Not being scared and hiding away, but standing up in these days for the Torah and the witness of Messiah against the deception in the church and the deception in the government and the deception that's lying ahead for the mark of the beast, but also for the deception of those who say that we don't have to follow God wholly with our whole heart, like Caleb and Joshua, doing everything that God says, breaking the deception of friendship with this world, because Hebron's root word is friendship. Chaverim, Cheber, Heber, Hebron. Gabarim means friends. The Chaverim or the Gabarim. Remember, whether you be doesn't matter. Whether you say Abraham or Avraham, it doesn't matter. The B and the V in the Hebrew is the same. The Chaverim. If you remember when we discussed the tabernacle of God, the Chaverim were the rings, the precious metal rings that was put through the veil, to hang the veil between the holiest place and the holy place. The veil that was hanging onto the rings called the Chaverim, the friends, the people that are gathered and joined together, like the rings gather and join the fabric of the veil together. So it can be here in the holiest of holy, right at the entrance to the place. Presence is burning like a fire on the Ark of the Covenant. The Chaverim brings together the veil. Yeshua was torn. The veil was torn from top to bottom. Yeshua's flesh was torn. He is the veil. And the Chaverim brings Yeshua together and shows how he is the veil. We hold him. we are not scared, and we are not too old, we are not too tired. We bring him to the world. We carry him on our friendship. What is that? Behold how good and how precious it is when brothers who dwell together in unity, in unity. La 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 la. That whole idea of a brother that's closer, or a friend that's closer than a brother. Brothers that are split apart and reunited back together. Jacob and Esau, and the older brother and the prodigal son, and the whole story of the brothers that rejected Joseph but got reunited back together when Judah repented of their sins under the before the throne of the one they thought was the sun god, Joseph, their own brother. This whole thing of how Yeshua is the brother that was rejected. He's the friend that gives his life for his brothers. There's no greater love, Yeshua says, than a friend who gives his life for his brothers. He's the friend. He's the friend you've never had. He's a friend like you can never have ever in your life again. Is Hebron. We all go back to Hebron. We go back to Mount Zion. We take back the promised land. We understand, believe and trust in the covenant promises of Hebron belonging to Israel and not to the Anakim, not to Kirjath Arba. Kirjath Arba is nothing, man. Strong's H7153. The city of Arba. Arba means fourth. Means four. 1, 2, 3, 4. The city of the 4 giants. From this place where the Nephilim ruled, Yahuwah gives to a stranger who crept into his heart. Caleb, the Kenizzite, who crept into God's heart. And this place, Kirjath Arba, because this place was famous and very important throughout history. The name was changed to Hebron. Kirjath Arba changed to Hebron. It's not just by coincidence that Caleb is taking Hebron. Genesis 13 verse 18. Then Abraham removed his tent and came and dwelt. He lived, he tabernacled in the plain of Mamre. Mamre, which is in Hebron. And he built there an altar unto Yahuwah. Genesis 23 verse 2. And Sarah died in Kirjath Arba. Sarah was 127 years old, and she died in Kirjath Arba. The same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abram came to mourn Kirjath Arba. The same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abram came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for Sarah. And he confirmed in verse 4, I'm a stranger and a sojourner. But God made Abraham the root of the olive tree and planted him in Hebron. He built an altar in Hebron. He dwelt in Hebron. And years later, out of his loins, out of his seed, as another stranger, somebody else who's a stranger, just like Abraham was, Caleb came and he took back Hebron for the seed of Abraham. Genesis 35, verse 27. And Jacob came unto Isaac, his father. He came unto Isaac his father at Mamre, the city of Arba, which is it, and lived. Hebron, where Isaac was living. Jacob was made one again after he was scattered and divided and separated from Abraham and Isaac for so many years. The seed of Abraham and Isaac that is scattered all over the world will come back to Abraham and Isaac. Jacob, Israel, the lost house of Israel. Jacob will rejoin Isaac at Mamre in Hebron, where Abraham dwelt as well. Can you see the prophecies of this God of ours who is teaching us the end from the beginning? He is so faithful. Genesis 37 verse 14. And Israel, Jacob said unto Joseph, Go, I ask you, please, go and see how it is with your brothers, and if it is well with the flocks, and bring me back word. So Jacob sent out Joseph. God sent out Yeshua to the brothers and to the flocks. He sent him out of the valley of Hebron. The valley of Hebron. Here I want to show you something. In the Hebrew, he sent him out of the valley of Hebron. And if you want to go now in your Bible, and also, look, Hebron is a mountain. It's not a valley. We just saw in the rest of scripture that Hebron is a mountain. And here Jacob is sending out Joseph, that Hebron is a mountain. And here Jacob is sending out Joseph from the valley of Hebron. But click on your Strong's Concordance on the word valley, and you will find Strong's H6010. Valley here is not valley as in the original sense of the word. It is emek, and it means valley in one application, but it also means to be deep, to be profound, to be mysterious. It is a deep and profound mystery out of Hebron, where Jacob was sending Joseph to go and look for his brothers, because the deep and profound, verse 18, Exodus 6, verse 18. And the sons of Konath, do I have the right place now? No, I don't. I'm sorry. I missed what I wanted to show you in Exodus 6. Let's go to the last verse I have here about Hebron. 2 Samuel 2, verse 1. And it came to pass after this that David inquired of Yahuwah, saying, Shall I go up into any of the cities of Judah? And Yahuwah said unto him, Go up, David. And David said, Where shall I go up? And God said, Go up unto Hebron. Let's jump to verse 11. At that time, David, because he listened to God and he went up to Hebron. David was king because he listened to God and he went up to Hebron. David was king in Hebron over the house of Judah for 7 years and 6 months. The battle for Hebron is the battle for the eternal tabernacle of the house of the royal King David tribe. The battle for Hebron is the battle for the house of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And it's the battle for the mystery of Joseph sent to his brothers. It's the battle for the stranger that becomes one in the hand of the Messiah, together with the real seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's the battle for the kingdom of God up to the end days, when the Anakim thinks they have destroyed the prophecies of Judah and Ephraim, when they think they have destroyed the witness of Messiah Yeshua, when they think they have destroyed all traces of the Torah, when they think they are destroying all traces of Yod Heh Vav Heh in the nuclear acids that is binding our DNA together in every 10, 5, 6, and 5 strands in our DNA, where the sulfuric acid bridges between the components of our DNA is to be found every 10 times, and then 5 times, and then 6 times, and then 5 times. It is a pattern in our DNA. And the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Yod. And the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Yod. The 5th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Hey. The 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Vav. And then the 5th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Hey again. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. When the Anakim of these days are thinking they have destroyed, and they are busy destroying even the signature of God in our very DNA with their genetic agendas that they are busy with, we, as the descendants of Caleb, strangers that is adopted into the family of Judah and Israel and grafted back into the olive tree and becoming through faith in Messiah, who was sent to us to come and see how we are doing and how the flocks are doing. He was sent by us. He is the mystery who's sent by us, and we fight for Hebron, we fight for him, and we fight the son of David will rule and reign, not for 7.5 years like David, but for 1,000 years, until God himself will come and bring back the original altar that Abraham built. Abraham, the father of our faith. And God will settle down again and restore